So today, lads, we're going to talk a little bit about the fourth quarter, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how the Atlanta Dream, in my opinion, just had no answer for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever in that fourth quarter. And realistically, for quite a bit of the second half, they had no answer for an aggressive Caitlin.
The Atlanta Dream's coaching staff looked completely out of answers when it came to stopping Caitlin Clark. And honestly, they're not the first to be caught off guard by just how dominant she can be. When the final buzzer sealed the Indiana Fever's commanding 99-80 to win, the frustration was written across every face on the Dream bench. They simply couldn't find a way to slow down the unstoppable force that is Caitlin Clark.
Let me say this about the Atlanta Dream. Y'all was hanging in there for 2 quarters, but then y'all ran out of gas. Cause you know why? The Indiana Fever ran y'all out y'all own building, and it was a sight to see. Y'all was huffing and puffing, trying to get some air and find some extra wind, and y'all couldn't.
This is what you get when players underestimate her, ranking her as only the 9th best point guard in the league. Caitlin Clark doesn't waste time with critics, doesn't get dragged into the noise, and certainly doesn't let their opinions shape her game. She delivers her message where it matters most on the court, and she makes sure it's loud and clear, leading her team to victory with ease.
Today, there's no surprise that the Indiana Fever looked best tonight when the offense was ran through Caitlin Clark. There's no surprise that the offense looked best tonight when we pushed the ball off of a make, pushed the ball off of a miss. There's no surprise that the Indiana Fever looked best tonight when Caitlin Clark was surrounded by players that don't have an ego, surrounded by players that said, I'm going to be MVP of the WNBA this year. You see how easy it is when you just let Caitlin play ball and others follow suit?
What unfolded against the Atlanta Dream was more than just a game, it was a statement. This was Caitlin Clark unleashed, playing her style, setting the pace, and running the entire show through her vision. And the result? Total domination. Her stat line may have shown just 12 points, but the real story was in the details: 9 precise assists, flawless control of the tempo, and a performance that dictated every possession. Her impact went far beyond the scoreboard.
They made sure Caitlin Clark had the ball in her hands. She became the creator of offense. That's what we've been saying. Her and Aaliyah Boston, I believe it was 4 times, got the Stockton-Malone 2-man game working. Dantas got involved at one point with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin was still off on her shooting tonight. But
The most striking takeaway, Stephanie White finally gave Caitlin Clark the green light to play her way, fast-paced, aggressive, and with the offense running entirely through her. She didn't need to hit every three-pointer to make a statement. The Atlanta Dream's coach may have prepared for plenty, but nothing could have prepared him for an unleashed Caitlin Clark at full throttle.
Even when she wasn't exactly getting when it wasn't her putting the ball in the basket or her showing up on the stat sheet, she was burning Jordan Canada. And people don't understand how good Jordan Canada is on defense. She was absolutely burning Jordan Canada. Canada could not stay in front of her. And that is a big thing. That is genuinely a big thing. That if you can't stay in front of her, it creates a space for everybody else. And there were some hockey assists, there was good ball movement, there was a lot of things. There was a lot of real positives when it came to Caitlin Clark today.
You know what's almost poetic about all of this? The Atlanta Dream's coaching staff spent hours breaking down film, crafting defensive game plans, and mapping out ways to limit Caitlin Clark's influence. They likely discussed double teams, full court pressure, and making every possession a battle for her. But when the final buzzer sounded and the scoreboard read 99-82 in the Fever's favor, the plan had crumbled. The coach could only watch in disbelief as his team was methodically taken apart by a player many had ranked as just the 9th best point guard in the league.
Obviously, tough game. I thought we had a good first half. We were really competitive. Second half we just had so many defensive breakdowns, and give them credit. They were getting extra possessions, and those extra possessions were turning into points just about every single time. So, just valuing ending their possession. It's not enough to force a tough shot. We got to come down with the ball. And then, we had some defensive breakdowns and they made us pay for. They were able to extend the lead. And then at the end, we had do some gambling and do some things that really we're not that equipped to do.
If you're enjoying this, make sure to subscribe because this isn't some one-off story. Across the WNBA, coaches have been left baffled after trying to stop Caitlin Clark. Remember when they thought they had her figured out? When they believed the jump from college to the pros would slow her down. Instead, she's doing the opposite, not just adjusting to the WNBA, but rewriting the definition of excellence at this level. The irony, it's priceless. These same coaches who completely redesign their defenses to contain her, who treat guarding her like it's a Michael Jordan assignment, somehow voted her as only the 9th best guard in the league. They'll take pride in trying to rough her up and downplay her influence at every opportunity, but when the lights shine brightest and the games matter most, they're the ones left looking foolish.
The Atlanta Dream were able to really neutralize Caitlin Clark in the first half, and I know Caitlin Clark had 5 first half assists, but they were able to neutralize Caitlin Clark's impact on the game in that first half. And in the second half, regardless of the box score numbers, how Caitlin completely took over. So the big way they were able to neutralize Caitlin Clark, and I think it was almost an issue with Stephanie White as much as anything, is they were
against the Atlanta Dream, something special unfolded. Stephanie White finally tapped into what Iowa fans had known for years. Caitlin Clark is at her most dangerous when she's free to control the pace and dictate the flow of the game. All season, we've seen White try to fit Clark into a system that didn't match her unique skill set. We've seen the frustration when she's stuck in the corner, watching others bring the ball up the court. But against Atlanta, everything shifted. White realized that trying to limit Clark's natural instincts is like trying to lock a hurricane in a box. When you have a once-in-a-generation talent, you don't force them into your system, you build your system around them. And that's exactly what happened on this night.
But you saw Clark sort of gaining her rhythm as the game went along, sort of returning to her form as the game went along, finding that pep in her step as the game went along, even though the shooting numbers were tour dates again, and she's got to find that shooting stroke at some point. Look, it can't go on all year, but you understand where some of those struggles come from when you deal with a quad injury and then a groin injury, and you're thrust back into the lineup and you're trying to find your way. But I do think it was the way that Clark found her way to the basket that was the difference in this game, really. That was what changed the dynamics of this game.
The Dream's coach could only watch as Caitlin Clark ran the Fever's offense like a world-class conductor leading a symphony. She was creating scoring chances out of thin air, threading passes through impossible lanes, and making in-game adjustments that left Atlanta chasing shadows. Even when her shots from deep weren't falling, she still dictated every rhythm and every possession. What made it even more remarkable was how she elevated everyone around her. That's the part her critics never talk about: her rare ability to make her teammates better and raise the entire team's level of play.
An inconsistent ride for Indiana, and for Clark as well, who's had to fight through a lot of injuries. But I think the encouraging thing from Cece was the fight that she showed on the floor. Clearly, she's not quite at 100%, still working her way back, hasn't found her 3-ball yet, but what she did was attack. She used the physicality against the defenders by putting her head down and going to the basket. That opened things up for her playmaking, which of course is another genius aspect of her game. Once that started clicking, the Fever ran away with things. Sophie Cunningham was everywhere. Clark had it going with Aaliyah Boston again. Kelsey Mitchell was cooking. And all of a sudden, you look up and the Fever are lighting up the scoreboard.
When Caitlin Clark plays her brand of basketball, pushing the pace, creating in transition, and reading the floor like a chess master, the entire Fever roster levels up. Kelsey Mitchell starts getting cleaner looks. Aaliyah Boston becomes more dominant in the post. And role players like Sophie Cunningham suddenly find themselves wide open for threes. The Dream's coach had no answer for this version of Clark because this version is unstoppable. When she's confident, setting the tempo, and commanding the floor the way she did at Iowa, she doesn't just play well, she becomes transcendent.
They were manhandling Caitlin Clark early in that game. Like, they had 2 hands on her. They were fully getting into the we are grabbing her and we don't really care. Like, that was their goal. Their goal was they were out there to maul Caitlin Clark. They had absolutely no intention of doing anything other than mauling Caitlin Clark.
Let's take a moment to talk about that ninth best point guard label because the contradiction is almost laughable. These coaches spend hours breaking down film, crafting defensive blueprints, and losing sleep over how to slow her down. Then they turn around and vote her as the ninth best guard in the league. That's not evaluation, that's either envy or pure denial. Their actions on the court tell the real story. They don't know how to stop her. Neither do their players. And here's the scary part, she's only getting better. With every game, Caitlin Clark is adding new layers to her skill set. Every time an opponent thinks they've figured her out, she unveils something new. What we're witnessing is the evolution of a player who's already elite into something even more extraordinary. The college version of Caitlin Clark was impressive, no doubt, but this pro version, the one learning to split double teams, absorbing WNBA physicality, and building chemistry with her teammates, this version is flat out terrifying for every coach in the league.
And this was a really nice all-around game from the Indiana Fever. And some may ask, well, Rhodes, do you feel better about Stephanie White? No, not at all. Because until she proves night in and night out she's willing to put the ball into Caitlin Clark's hand and let her be the creator and innovator on offense, I will not be sold. I will not be sold. The fact is, Caitlin's going to start knocking these shots back down at some point. And all of a sudden, her statistics are going to blow up.
The Atlanta Dream coach's speechless reaction said it all about where Caitlin Clark truly belongs among the league's best. You don't spend hours game planning for the ninth best anything. You don't lose sleep over the ninth best anything. You don't completely overhaul your defensive philosophy for the ninth best anything. Stephanie White deserves credit for finally embracing what many have been saying all season. Clark is at her most dangerous when she's free to play her natural game. The same fast-paced, up-tempo style that made her a legend at Iowa is exactly what makes her nearly unstoppable in the pros. When she's pushing the pace, creating on the fly, and free from rigid offensive constraints, she becomes the kind of player coaches dread facing, and against Atlanta, her brilliance went beyond the box score. Yes, her 9 assists and flawless floor leadership stood out, but the real beauty was how she controlled the emotional flow of the game. Every time Atlanta built momentum, Clark made a play to swing it back to Indiana. Every time the Dream threatened to rally, she found a way to shut the door.
I'm trying to put a square peg in a round hole. This was a tale of two halves. A tale of two halves. A half where the Indiana Fever let Jordan Canada have wide open shots, and a half where they decided to play defense and shut Jordan Canada down and not let Ryan Howard get off. Interesting. A half where we had Caitlin off ball and sitting a lot, sitting on the bench, rotting away in the first half, and the second half where, oh my God, she's in the game. Oh my God, they're giving her the ball.
This is what elite point guards do. They're not just about piling up points or assists. They control the heartbeat of the game. They decide when to push the tempo, when to slow it down, when to take over themselves, and when to feed their teammates. Against Atlanta, Caitlin Clark put every one of those skills on display, leaving the Dream's coach with no answers. Her influence stretched far beyond the numbers. Just by being on the floor, she forced defenses to change everything they do. They couldn't leave their assignments because she'd find the open player. They couldn't drop into a zone because she'd burn them from deep. They couldn't press her full court because her size and vision allowed her to slice them apart with pinpoint passes for easy buckets.